Hey folks, here are OS Reviews. You're watching our video first look and a quick review of the MechanicalEagle Z-77. This is an 87 key mechanical keyboard which uses blue switches and also features a multicolor backlight for each of the individual keys. It comes in a number of different colors. You can pick it up through Amazon for roughly $50, which is pretty inexpensive, and it's a simple plug-and-play keyboard without any drivers that are needed, and it supports both Windows and Mac computers. It also includes a few other modes that you can program for the keys and the lighting, although the color behind each of the keys cannot be changed. So it has a preset color scheme. It's not like each of the individual keys displays, let's say, all 7 colors. So taking a look at the design of the keyboard first, you can see that there is a metal or aluminum base, which makes it look fairly elegant. It's an 87 key keyboard, so it's fairly compact. It doesn't have a dedicated number pad or a numpad on the right, so it saves you some extra space when you place it on a surface or a desk, and overall it does look pretty elegant. We can see here that there's a top row that's dedicated to function keys, and there's also a secondary row for numbers, your typical QWERTY layout, Windows keys down below. The spacebar is pretty nice and centered, and there's additional arrow keys, so all pretty standard as far as the layout is concerned. On the very top, you have access to the company's logo, the MechanicalEagle logo, and there's also LED lights to tell you when the caps lock key and function keys have been tapped or pressed. The cable here is not exactly centered, it's slightly to the left of the unit, and on the very back you have access to some rubber feet which can be popped up at a tilted degree when you're typing, just for some enhanced positioning. And there's also a bit of information about the model number and the specific specifications behind this keyboard, and that's basically it. So next we're going to plug this thing in and show you guys some of the lighting modes as well as some general performance in terms of what we thought about the keyboard. So when you first plug it in, it's going to create this series of LED flashes. It's going to glow and going to go through this transition effect, and after a while it's going to settle down on the mode that you saved it on, or the last lighting mode that you selected. This is kind of the boot up process, and you can see that the lights themselves are actually fairly bright. We have it now set on the always on mode, so all the keys are all fully lit. It doesn't really matter if I tap on something, it's still going to be lit. And you can see here that it has a rainbow pattern with the red on the top and kind of the purple at the bottom, and kind of fades in between, which I think is pretty cool. The lights themselves are fairly bright, and even in an environment where there's background light, you can still see them, especially helpful if you're in a darker place. So if I wanted to adjust the brightness of the keys, I tap on the function, and then I use up to make it brighter and down to make it dimmer. You can see there's a few different modes, from completely off to saving some energy to all the way on, so this is the brightest setting. I can also change the transition effects by tapping on the insert key up top, so using function again. So the first one you have here is a rippling effect. It uses this memory effect that where I type on something, it remembers it and then fades after a few seconds. I think this is a pretty cool mode to be in, so it allows you to kind of see where the last key that you tapped on was, and it fades rather quickly, so it depends on how fast you're typing. Again, the actual colors of the keys, which have been mapped by the manufacturer, can't be changed, but overall you get the idea that this is an interesting mode to be in. The next one goes through this pulsing, gently pulsing back and forth effect. Tapping on it again, we now have a preset map, so you can change between certain keys. So let's say that I'm gaming and I have to use the ASDW keys here for a specific game, in addition to the arrow keys. These are the only keys that are backlit, so you can find them a bit more easily. I can also change these by tapping on the function keys up top, just to see the different layouts. So for instance, function 1, 2, 3, 4 changes kind of the gaming mode layout, so you can kind of see maybe some games require a few different buttons to be placed, so those are the ones that are going to light up differently, and so on and so forth. The function 9 and the function 0 keys are up to you, so you can program them specifically to the game that you want. So for instance, I program 9, or 0 in this case, to be just the letters of the keyboard without any of the other function or arrow keys to be lit up, and so this is what it looks like. It's pretty easy to program it yourself. It simply allows you to tap on the key that you want, it glows, and when you're done, you basically save it, and it remembers it. So it's the function 9 or the function 0, those are the two optional ones that you can save. So tapping on the insert again, the next one here creates this kind of rippling back and forth effect. The next one here is very similar, but it slides into the center and then disappears, as you can see. And the next one here is the kind of boot up animation that we saw earlier. It ends up at the O for some reason, but then it spreads back out again, spirals, and then goes back to that one letter. The next one is kind of a more fading one that goes back and forth, and the next one here is one where you tap on one and that centers out, the light spreads out, and it creates this very fast kind of glowing, rippling effect, which I think is also pretty cool, kind of like a pond if you drop a stone into. And then here's one where it goes onto the other side, one where it always stays on, and finally it goes back and forth again. So overall, it's pretty easy to, I guess, set up to the proper mode that you want, and I feel like the one where it has its memory or the one where it's always on or always off are going to be the most practical. For gaming, of course, you could set the preset gaming options. That's a useful one as well. The other ones are mainly for show, for decorative purposes. They might get a little bit annoying if you have it at the brightest setting and you're always typing away, so it kind of flashes in front of you, but overall it does a nice job. So talking about these switches now, it uses blue switches, which I think are rather loud. They're clicky, they're tactile, and if you love mechanical keyboards, I think you'll love this, despite the fact that the switches are made in China as opposed to an American or European OEM for more expensive mechanical keyboards that you might see on the market. But anyways, I still think that it does a pretty good job, and the good thing about mechanical keyboards is you don't have to tap all the way down to press a key. You can use just a little bit of force and just kind of go halfway. You hear that click, and it kind of, the spring itself does the job for you, and basically presses down that button. So if you are typing a very long essay after you get used to using the keyboard, you don't have to exert as much force to tap and press on the button that you're looking for, basically. The other good thing about mechanical keyboards is that they can last for a very long time. Of course, the caps themselves can be pushed up and removed if they get worn off. You can wash these caps. So it does have a higher construction quality, feels a lot more solid. But the downside, I guess, of a blue switch mechanical keyboard like this one is it is somewhat loud. So if you're in an environment like a library, if you're taking it with you maybe to a dorm where you have other roommates, it might get a little bit annoying, and you should probably kind of negotiate your way between that. Something I want to quickly mention is the company does offer other types, colors of switches for the Z7. So potentially you can get something like a black, brown, or a red switch instead, and those will vary in terms of the loudness as well as the feeling after you type on them, but you get used to it, I'd say, after a bit of time. So overall, as a keyboard, I think that this is pretty good. It's responsive. It seems like everything does work quite well. I like blue switches personally because of that audio feedback, especially since I'm using this in the office or perhaps in home when I'm alone. So this is something that I personally like. So doing a quick typing test, I suppose, and showing you guys kind of the sound behind this keyboard in a bit more detail, I'm going to tap on an open page on kind of the tablet here that I have it connected to. So I'm just going to start typing away. You can kind of see the keyboard automatically goes away, and this is what it sounds like. Something I will say is that the spacebar here seems to be pretty well constructed, and no matter where you tap on it, from the center or from slightly offset, it still feels quite even and responsive in terms of the feedback as well as the sound. So it doesn't feel like a very cheaply made keyboard sometimes where the spacebar, if you tap, in a position where it's really off-centered, it doesn't feel very good. But this one seems to be a pretty decent overall construction going on over here. And so I would say this is great even if you're typing out essays and papers for productivity in addition for things like gaming. So you can check out more details about the MechanicalEagle Z-77 gaming keyboard in our official written review, but this has been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews.